Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, Europe. Good evening, India, Asia, and good morning, America. Welcome to, it's already the last part of our little tool management webinar series. So welcome back to most of you. And thank you for tuning in again. And of course, thank you for your very, very positive feedback so far. So, to all the newcomers today, hello and glad you could make it this time. And really, don't worry if you could not participate in the first part or second part. We have a no child left behind policy. Every webinar stands basically on its own, and I will do an extensive recap, so nobody will be lost. And I guess some of the frequent visitors may also be happy about that. That is a little recap. So, I do hope you all had a great weekend. You're all still safe and healthy, and you stay that way. And as for the last webinars, I assume most of you are at home right now. So I would say sit back, relax, and enjoy 20 hopefully interesting minutes with the webinar Tool Management 101, Part 3, the benefits, advantages of tool management. I have something a little bit more organizational. We're a large group, even a little bit larger than the last times. So you're all mute. Would make it a little bit hard. There is, of course, a chance for you to ask questions. You can use the question window or the chat window. However, out of experience with this large group, and we tried it 2 times, this is not very easy. So everything we cannot answer during the session or at the end, we will answer it afterwards offline. And of course, you can also send us your IDs, your question per email, or of course on LinkedIn. And if you want to find me on LinkedIn, maybe real quick to me, my name is Robert Auer. I'm Director of Global Business Development at TDM Systems. My background, I'm a software engineer by trade, and I did spend most of my professional career in the manufacturing industry, dedicated to tool management for over 10 years now. My professional background and my current job is actually quite international. Europe, Asia, and my main focus right now is the US. But as most of you, I'm stranded at home right now. Speaking of at home right now, this webinar thing has a nice tool, a polling tool, so I can ask questions and you can give me an answer. And let's give it a try. I'm actually quite curious. How many of you are actually working or are at home right now? So are you actually currently working from home? And you can answer the questions by just clicking on yes or no. Let's see. The votes are coming in. And yeah, most of you have already voted yes or no. And it is almost as expected. A couple votes are still missing, but yeah, the majority of you is actually right now working from home, 90%, which is really interesting. Thank you very much. So what we could do, maybe something fun. If you want, send me pictures from where you are right now, your location, your home office, your hometown. I could create something interactive or like a little collage or something. If you want, do it, as it would be really fun. You can send it to me per LinkedIn, or also you can send it per email. I did just post my email address in the chat window. It would be fun. Let's see if we can make something out of it. So that's it for starters. I would say without further ado, live from my home office in southern Germany at beautiful Lake Constance, let's start the webinar. Let's start the webinar Tool Management 101, Part 3, the benefits of TDM, plan, manage, and execute. And again, a quick side note from my end, I will use some screenshots or some verbiage from our software, but however, this webinar is absolutely brand neutral. It's about tool management in general, what state-of-the-art tool management can do, and there are different solutions out there. We just want to create an awareness and an understanding of the general topic. So then I would say let's recap what happened during the last webinars. What is actually tool management? And we had interesting polls the last 2 webinars. One was, are you familiar with tool management? 100% said yes, we know, we're familiar. And then we asked, are you using whatever you're using right now to its full extent? And the answer was more like 1/3. Yeah, we're using it to its full extent, but 2/3 said no, definitely not. So I think the first question we have to ask ourselves and answer, what do we consider is tool management? What did we actually agree on what it is? And what we are not talking about is data written on the back of the hand to transfer data from a presetter to machine. This is not tool management. Also, using paper files, the paper trail, not tool management. Funny side note, by the way, in the first seminar, we did learn a German word of the day called Zettelwirtschaft, paper chaos. If you want to learn it, you can use my accent to be a little bit better with the pronunciation. I have a little info in the handout section of this webinar. Feel free to have a look at it and practice by yourself. But what I'm trying to say is, no, this is not tool management. Excel, which is probably the most used system out there to manage tool, this is not what we consider tool management for today's purpose. And also, there are a lot of systems out there, vending systems. They have a little tool database. Machine tools, usually they come with some sort of tool management. And also CAD/CAM systems, they have dedicated software to manage tools. These are all great, they are good for the purpose, but they're definitely limited with their purpose. So this is not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is a full-blown dedicated tool management system, managing items, assemblies, tool lists, system which supports the move from a more, let's just call it static, to a dynamic manufacturing process. So when we talk about tool management today, we talk about the management of the so-called digital twin of a cutting tool. And you all know this physical tool, you can touch it, it has a weight, it's cold, it's hot. But the digital twin, you cannot touch it, but it also has parameters. It has a length, it has a diameter, it has 2D drawings, 3D drawings, and so much more. Cost, an article number. And this is what we're talking about. And for a tool management system, a digital twin is of course more than just an assembly. It has actually multiple layers or levels. For example, you have a component level with all its parameters, your basic component library. Then you have assemblies, the tool library, which can be used by a CAM system, for example. And then of course you have the tool sheets, the job sheets, the main documentation for the shop floor. And obviously all that data is linked together. The component is used in assembly. Actually, there are smart assembly builders. They know which components fit together. And then of course the job is a collection of everything else, everything needed for a job. And the job of the tool management system, as we understand it, is of course providing and collecting the digital data along the entire end-to-end manufacturing process. And this is a typical environment. You have different systems. You have different demands to the digital twin. For example, an ERP system might need an article number, a price, a vendor. And an ERP system needs it on an item, on a component level. A CAM system, on the other hand, needs a 2D drawing, a 3D drawing on an assembly level. Vending needs a location, item level. Presetting, for example, needs nominal dimensions, a diameter, a length of an assembly. And then the presetter provides the offsets, the actual tool, back to the tool management system. So it's kind of the link between the physical world and the virtual world. And the goal is, of course, that none of these entities, none of these manufacturing entities is siloed or an island solution. Tool data should be available along the entire step. One central database, multiple systems connected through database connections or interfaces. Yeah, to sum it up, and the last recap slide, what is tool management? Tool management in a nutshell is having the right tool at the right place, at the right tool, right time, right place. And what I want to add today is right quality. So you use a tool management system to have information in the programming department, parameters, speeds, feeds, and so on and so forth. And of course, for job planning and manufacturing, you need to know the location of something. Is it in the crib? Is it in the machine? You want to have documentation, assembly drawings, and you can collect and analyze and use data, tool life, historical data, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of a quick, more or less quick recap of what happened in the last 3 webinars. So now let's talk about the benefits. Why are we using tool management? And generally speaking, very generally speaking, tool management can generate huge savings, like big inventory savings, 15, 20%, no exception, just by having a transparent, optimized grip inventory. Reduce your tool variety. You can reduce your downtime. You have fewer machine crashes, less scrap. You're faster, you're more efficient, just by having the right tool, right time, right location, and having, of course, the right tool data. So in short, as you can see, companies spend a lot of money on tools, on cutting tools every year. Companies spend a lot of money on machines every year. So what tool management does, it enables you to manage this investment, this huge investment better. and to manage, of course, the process better, reduce tooling related costs, increase productivity, and kind of increase profitability. So now you might have two questions. As one question could be, hey, if tool management is really so great, why is not everybody using it? Which is definitely a very valid and good question. And one reason is definitely awareness. It's definitely a problem, but this is something we're working on right now, correct? And some has to do with manpower for a project. But I think most importantly, tool management software is not like buying a machine. You plug it in, you hit the start button, you load the program, and you're good to go. Tool management is a software. You have to install it. You have to train people. You have to create a database. You have tons of legacy data. Everything has to be done right. So companies tend to, let's just agree on the word procrastinate. But first of all, there are ways to do it right, which is definitely a topic for another webinar. And maybe for today, my advice would be start small, start very smart, identify the low-hanging fruits. But on the other hand, it's not just about the starting point. It's also in some areas you have to go digital at one point, because your CAM, your simulation software, your agile manufacturing software, they just demand it. So I personally think that the time where you can procrastinate this topic is slowly but gradually running out. And procrastination in this case is really the worst advice. So to stay competitive, I think digital is the best way to go. And the second question you might want to ask me at this point is, where do those numbers, the 20%, the 30%, the 50%, where do they actually come from? And of course, there are plenty of studies from really, really smart people and companies out there. And this is where parts of the numbers come from. But we also do our own case studies, which you can find online. We do ROI calculations, and we're more than happy to do a more tailored one to your needs with you, no problem. But what I will try to do for today, for the webinar, in the remaining minutes, is I want to go through some of the benefits in detail, and you can decide for yourself if it applies for you, for your situation, or maybe not. So let's have a quick look, or let's have a look at the benefits, when it comes to tools, at the benefits when it comes to machines, and of course the benefits when it comes to the process. As I did mention, you can achieve inventory capital savings of about 20%. Achieve this through transparency, optimized tool grip inventory, reduction of tool variety. The typical numbers where this 20% comes from is that you can reduce your procurement purchasing costs by about 10%. You can optimize the inventory, reduce the variety, especially the tools, the vendors, and you have a more optimized ordering process. So no extra stocks. And one example is you don't have, those little stocks of tools around the shop floor. As the most famous one is the one next to the machine in the little box of the operators, what I call squirreled inserts. You can get rid of that. And then of course the general tool logistics can be, the cost can be reduced by up to 30%, just because you know where the tools are. You don't have to assemble, disassemble an unnecessary amount of tools. And I think a very impressive example, we have a customer, they reduced the number of tool assemblies from over 6,000 to under 4,000. So they almost cut the number of tool assemblies they need in half in 1 year. So just by using tool management, and the initial savings are roughly almost 2 million euros. And of course, there are also huge long-term effects to that. So let's have a quick look at the machines. What you want to do in the machines is, of course, reduce downtime. Machines should cut, produce parts, cut metal. And of course, we want to reduce the cost for failure. And you do this obviously by having the right tool, right place, right time. And this is, of course, great in combination with the tool presetter. You measure the tools, you put in the machine, and you're more or less good to go. But it's not just about tools. It's also about fixtures, gauges. Everything you need to set up and run a machine, a job, can be at the machine, right, at the just in time. And I guess more impressive than the number for machine downtime is tool-related downtime. If you look at tool-related downtime, it can go up to, we can reduce it by over 90%, just by having right tool, right place, right time. But more importantly, to have the tool with the right data, the right offsets, the right cutting data at the machine. And this is actually great in combination with RFID, with tool identification, like Balluff, Eugner, EDEM, or QR codes. We had a question last week about RFID, and I do have quite some experience in that field. However, it would be too much for this webinar, for this presentation. So there will definitely be a separate webinar on this topic alone. And then, of course, I mean, another benefit is you can increase the tool usage or the utilization of tools by up to 50%, because you cannot just locate or store away tools. No, you have the data, their status, their history, like remaining tool life condition. It's basically stored with the tool, which means you can reuse them. An interesting number from a customer for machines is they were saving about 350 hours per year in reduction of setup time, and they had 45% less scrap just by having validated correct tool data at the machine. And the last one is, of course, the process. You can improve the process, increase speed, efficiency by about 50%, of course, mainly by optimized planning, integration into ERP systems, MES, FMS systems, integration into CAM, into simulation. You have optimized tool selection. And of course, you have a more efficient shop floor process. So you can increase the tool usage, have transparency, tools, allocations. I mean, this is very, on one hand, very easy to understand, but on the other hand, the benefits of the process improvements are highly underestimated. I guess because they're a little bit harder to see, or harder to grasp, or harder to visualize. But let's think about it. And just for argument's sake, let's have a look at the planning phase. Just for now, let's have a look at the CAM programming part. Let's say I'm a programmer and I have access to data. How much better I can create my CAM program. And it's kind of what I like is there's a Professor Eldenspiel. He used to be at the University of Munich. He had books about intelligent design, smart product development. And among many other things, what he points out is the importance of planning, about the importance of having data for planning. What he's pointing out is 70% of product or manufacturing costs are influenced during the product development, although this product development only causes 2 to 10% of the cost. So you can imagine what it means if a CAM programmer can use actual data, verified company knowledge, historical data, and not just tribal knowledge and his own gut feeling. What it means, actually, every dollar invested in that area is money really well spent. But with all those benefits, what's important, those numbers may vary. They might be bigger or smaller, completely different for you. There might be a lower hanging fruit for one, which could be something completely out of reach for somebody else. For example, if you don't use CAM systems, I mean, that's not a benefit. It's really different for anyone. And of course, you need the right people and the right system which suits your needs. However, the benefits, they are really just too big to ignore. That's the one thing to point out. And now, before I finish this webinar, I want to have a look at an actual implementation, kind of a customer journey on how to use tool management and the components of a typical tool management system to really rake in the benefits. So as mentioned, data should be available along every step along the way. One central database, multiple systems and interfaces. So in the planning area, it means continuous documentation, transparency, optimized tool and equipment usage. And then the second phase, which looks really small, but for me is actually kind of the low-hanging fruit, the semi-quick win of planning, is programming. If you can create a reliable process from NC programming to simulation to machining, you can really reduce your tooling-related downtime. And of course, smart design, you can reduce your costs tremendously. And then, of course, number 3, the obvious one, the efficient shop floor process. You reduce costs by having a transparent process, organize your tools, equipment, reduce stock costs, and so on and so forth. I mean, these are kind of the 3 areas where tool management has an influence in. So step number 1, planning, documentation. It can start very simple, very basic. Just a tool library, manage your items, assemblies, and tool lists. That's it. This is the starting point. This is what I would consider the starting point. And this alone would be worth a seminar. But in this area, you can already add a couple modules like NC program management, document management. You can manage gauges, calibration equipment with calibration cycles, and so on and so forth. You can manage fixtures. And the benefits are, of course, obvious. You have a centralized knowledge database. You can improve your quality and, of course, huge time savings. In the second step, the CAM process, you want to reduce, of course, scrap, eliminate collisions through this verified simulated NC program. But you can also save big bucks with smart planning and smart programming, because the programmer has access to all the information. You have the CAM system, you have the CAM system, the simulation system, you have tools to modify data. So you have everything you need in order to do smart design. And because this process is so important, I really want to go through the process real quick. You're a CAM programmer, you select your tool assembly, you load all your geometry, speeds, feeds, all information you can get, even availability. You can see this in your CAM system. You can do your programming, and when you're done with the programming, you send your job, your tool sheet, back into the tool management system. And obviously, this works with one programmer, but if you have more than one, 4, 5, 6, and even 10, they all work on the same tool library. So they're using the same tools, they can reuse it. And it does not only work for one CAM system, it works for a wide variety of different CAM systems. So, and last but not least, step 3, an efficient shop floor process. Having the right tool, right place, right time, and as mentioned earlier, of course, right quality with the right data, right documentation. An obvious one, of course, you have the tool library in a central database, you have the components, assemblies, documents, the proof of use. That's a given. Then you have an interface to vending system where you have stock management, you have transparent locations, you know where the components are located. Then there's of course an order module, so you can automate your ordering process and make sure you're not running out of inserts, for example. And then last but not least, there are of course a lot of shop floor interfaces. A very common one is of course an interface to tool presetter. The tool management system sends the nominals to a presetter, and then collecting the tool offset back from the presetter and sends it to the machine. And I mean, we already talked mainly about the results, reducing variety, reducing cost, everything is at the machine in time, it reduces setup time, you have trustworthy data, and you reduce scrap. So this is kind of a 20-minute rundown into the benefits of tool management. And I know this is just a glimpse. This is just a little window into what tool management can do. What was missing? There was missing RFID, machine integration, like with the Mazak machine or the DMG, FMS systems like FastEms, tool life monitoring, tool condition monitoring. There's so much we could also talk about. And me personally, I also wanted to show a little bit more in the live software, but there's not enough time. But we are actually thinking about another series. We're working on topics right now. The idea is really like 4 to 6 sessions to cover the entire end-to-end process. Look at the individual sections one by one and not become more complicated. On the contrary, maybe become a little bit more detailed. And I would really hope if you enjoy this mini series, stay tuned for what we have in stock next. Maybe real quick before I finish, feel free to check out our YouTube channel. Actually, every session I had those 3 videos because kind of they're a good representation of what we have out there. Customer stories. We have what we call a simple show, which explains tool management topics really easily. And of course, because it's a really important topic, is CAM integration. You can find nice videos on that as well. Yeah, and with that, I am actually done for today for the entire webinar series. A little bit sad, to be honest. Let's do one question. What is the ROI time for a system? And that's kind of what I was trying to say in the beginning. It's a little bit hard to without knowing what you're using to really calculate an ROI. This is what we do individually. We check how many tool assemblies do you have, how many CAM systems, what kind of CAM systems. So to be a little bit more accurate. And we're more happy to do that with you. And there's actually one on our webpage. But generally speaking, an ROI, depending on how you calculate it, can be definitely in under a year. We're talking about 6, 8, 12 months. And one has to talk about, of course, a little bit also about how to implement a tool management system, because this is really important. But this will also be a part of another webinar, because we get these questions very, very often. How can we do a tool management project which doesn't fail? But this is a very good question. Thank you, Stephen. And we will work on more webinars like this. And this brings me to another poll, to kind of my last poll of today. My question, or our question to you guys is, do you think we should continue offering something very similar, like free and what we call agnostic, so of course brand independent webinars like this, like short glimpses and talk about topics within tool management? Yeah, and this is actually a very, 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 very nice feedback. It looks like you're there is a demand out there for talking a little bit more about tool management. This is really great. Thank you very much. And it was really fun doing this mini series with all of you, and we're working on a concept for a little bit more. So really stay tuned. And remember, if you want, send me personally a picture from your home office, your hometown, or maybe your favorite pet. Let's see if I can create something out of it. Yeah, and this was it for today. I thank you all really very much. It was really a pleasure, and I know your time is really highly appreciated. And I really hope I can visit you, see your process and your shop floor life, and we can discuss tool management again in person in the near future. But in the meantime, I would say, yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you very much, and see you all.